The Zithera conglomerate prided itself on knowing the galaxy. Their fleets mapped countless star systems, cataloged thousands of alien species, and explored every planet where life might exist. They believed themselves the supreme intelligence in the stars. But there was one race they did not fully understand. One race they thought was gone, too fragile to survive. Humans. Stories of humans persisted in the galactic records. Ancient reports described creatures that thrived in worlds that should have killed them. They survived worlds of extreme heat, crushing gravity, acidic oceans, and poisonous atmospheres. Yet Zithera scientists dismissed these as exaggerations, myths, or mistakes. The humans were primitive, unworthy of serious study. And so the conglomerate expanded quietly, claiming the outer systems without fear of human interference. Deep in Zithera space, a research fleet drifted toward the uncharted sector known as Sector 92F. This sector contained a planet labeled LV-319, a world with high radiation levels, constant storms, and landscapes scarred by massive volcanic activity. No civilized species was known to survive here, except, as Zithera records hinted, humans. Captain Rylan Kess of the survey ship Argus V peered at the holographic displays, studying the planet below. The storm clouds swirled in violent orange and red patterns. Lightning flashed across the jagged mountains, illuminating the molten rivers below. The planet seemed alive, dangerous, and unwelcoming. "This is insane," whispered Lieutenant Maurice Kale, staring at the readings. "No species could survive down there." "Exactly," Ryland said, leaning back. "That's why we can claim it first. If humans exist here, they are nothing compared to us." He tapped a command on the console. "Keep scanners running. I want every anomaly logged. And remember, Zithera doesn't deal with myths. If we see humans, they will surrender. They always surrender." Below, the world seemed quiet, but the humans were not idle. Hidden deep within lava-carved caves and forested craters, they watched the intruders with calm patience. On this death world, every human was trained from birth to survive in conditions that would kill most species. Their eyes, adapted to low light and radiation, scanned the approaching ships. Their movements were silent, careful, and coordinated. Captain Alara Voss, commanding a squadron of Deathworlder fighters, crouched on a ridge overlooking the Zitheran approach. She tapped her comms. "All units stand ready. They think they can chart this world without challenge. They think wrong." Her squadron was small but deadly. Their ships were black, sleek, and adapted to the planet's storms. They could dive into volcanic ash clouds, hide in lightning storms, and strike without warning. The Zitherans had no idea what they were about to face. Back in orbit, Argus V detected movement near the planet's surface. The sensors showed faint heat signatures, almost like small fires moving rapidly across the volcanic plains. "Captain, we're getting unusual readings," said Kale. "They appear organic, but not like anything we've cataloged." Ryland frowned. "Send a probe." "Let's see what we're dealing with." The probe dropped through the thick atmosphere, braving lightning strikes and acid rain. The live feed came through, revealing something that made Kale's jaw tighten. Figures moved across the landscape. Humanoid, yes, but taller, stronger, and faster than normal humans described in historical records. They carried strange equipment, but it seemed organic, almost like it grew with them. The humans moved with purpose and awareness that no ordinary species had. "They're not primitive," Kale said quietly. "They're evolved." Ryland's eyes narrowed. "It doesn't matter, they are alone. They have no fleet, no real weapons. We can handle them." But the humans were already planning their move. Captain Alara's squadron relayed a signal, almost inaudible across the planet, to the hidden surface units. The humans coordinated silently, setting traps, preparing ambushes, and moving into strategic positions. This was not a species caught off guard. It was a species that thrived on danger, a species that had turned survival into an art. As night fell over LV-319, the The storms intensified. Zithra's fleet orbited the planet, unaware that the humans below were already active. In the shadow of a massive volcano, squads moved like shadows, blending into the ash and fire. Sensors could not detect them, weapons could not track them, yet they were everywhere. Ryland dismissed the anomalies at first. It's the storms. The readings are atmospheric interference, nothing to worry about. He leaned back in his chair, unaware that every word he spoke was being tracked by hidden surveillance. Then it began. A small patrol ship of the Zitharan fleet, hovering closer to the surface for reconnaissance, was hit by a sudden, silent attack. Its systems failed within seconds. The ship spun out of control, hitting the planet's jagged terrain and exploding in a ball of fire. "Report," Ryland shouted, alarm rising in his chest. "What happened to Patrol 1? Captain, sensors show nothing. No weapons fire detected. Systems failed all at once," Kale stammered. "It's impossible." On the planet, Captain Alara allowed herself a brief smile. "Let them wonder," she said. "Let them think it's a storm. Let them think it's a fluke. That's all they'll have before we strike again." The Zitharans, confident in their technological superiority, sent more ships closer. Each encounter was the same. A ship would lose power, systems would fail, and no enemy could be seen. The humans had adapted not only to survive the planet, but to control it. Every ash cloud, every lightning strike, every shifting volcanic vent became a weapon in their hands. Ryland's calm confidence began to crack. "These readings, they don't make sense," he muttered. "How can a species survive this environment, let alone control it?" Kale looked at him, fear creeping into her voice. "They aren't just surviving, they're using it against us." Below, Alara's fleet moved silently toward the orbital fleet. The humans had calculated the Zitharans' patterns, anticipating every move. In the shadows of the storm, small ships darted in and out, striking systems, crippling engines, and vanishing before counterattacks could begin. Rylan was now fully alarmed. "Call in reinforcements," he ordered. "We can't lose these ships. Deploy all tactical units." But the humans were ready. They had studied the Zitharans' methods for generations, learning their tactics, predicting their behavior, and preparing contingencies for every scenario. It was not brute force that would win the day. It was intelligence, adaptability, and resilience born from millennia of survival on the deadliest worlds in the galaxy. And so, the first night passed with the Zitharans shaken and confused. They had expected easy exploration, a weak species that would surrender or flee. Instead, they encountered a force that did not panic, did not surrender, and did not fear death. Humans. Alara looked at her team. Tonight, they think they control the skies. Tomorrow, they will learn they do not. Prepare for the next strike. We are not just surviving. We are taking the first step toward reminding the galaxy who we are. Somewhere above the clouds, Ryland stared at the planet, a chill running down his spine. He did not know it yet, but the legends were true. The humans of LV-319 were not only alive, they were the hunters now, and the galaxy had just met a storm it could not hope to control. The first light of LV-319's twin suns cut through the ash-streaked clouds, painting the jagged landscape in sharp contrasts of orange and black. On the Zitharan orbital fleet, the glow reflected off the armored hulls of the ships, highlighting every ridge, every weapon mount, and every sensor array. Captain Rylan Kess paced the bridge of Argus V, his mind racing. "The attacks are coordinated," Lieutenant Maurice Kale said, reviewing the sensor logs. "Every ship that enters low orbit is disabled in the same way. There's a pattern." Rylan slammed his fist on the console. "Pattern or not, we have no contact. No enemy ships, no fighters." "How can this be happening?" Kale shook her head. "I don't know, sir. Nothing on our scanners matches what's happening. No known weapons, no electromagnetic pulses, nothing." Rylan clenched his jaw. "We underestimated them. Big mistake." Below the orbiting ships, the humans waited. The Deathworlders had no intention of letting the Zitherans explore or take their world. Captain Alara Voss stood on the command platform of her flagship, Shadow Fang. Her eyes scanned the holographic display of Zitharan positions, every ship accounted for, every movement predicted. Phase 2 begins, she ordered. Engage the orbital harassment units. Hit the engines. Disable their communication. Let them know we are not a myth. From hidden caves along the mountains and beneath the volcanic plains, Deathworlder fighters launched in perfect synchronization. They moved like shadows against the storm-lit sky, almost invisible against the ash clouds and lightning. Their weapons were strange to Zitharan sensors, organic, adaptive energy bursts that disabled ships without leaving detectable damage. The first ship to be struck, a light cruiser named Valor, experienced sudden systems failure. Engines died mid-flight, leaving the vessel drifting helplessly. Moments later, the cruiser spun out of control and collided with a nearby asteroid, exploding in a massive fireball that illuminated the surrounding fleet. "Another one?" Ryland shouted, disbelief and fear creeping into his voice. "How?" Cale barely answered, staring at the screens. "There's nothing to see. No fighters, no projectiles. It's as if the planet itself is attacking." The Zitharans scrambled to respond. Squadrons of interceptors launched to hunt the mysterious attackers, but every move was anticipated. Deathworlder ships emerged from storm clouds, striking quickly, then disappearing before the Zitharans could retaliate. Communications between ships failed in bursts, engines misfired, and systems that should have been reliable simply stopped working. In the chaos, Rylan ordered a retreat to higher orbit. "Get us out of the lower atmosphere. Pull back." But Alara was ready. Using the planet's electromagnetic storms and her fleet's adaptive cloaking, she positioned her forces above the Zitharans. The humans were not just surviving, they were controlling the environment. Every lightning strike, every magnetic field, every volcanic ash cloud became part of their strategy. On the surface, ground teams set traps in anticipation of Zitharan boarding parties. Hidden turrets, camouflaged energy fields, and automated drones moved with silent precision. This was not just a fight for territory, it was a war of intellect and instinct, honed over generations on a hostile planet. Ryland's fleet continued to lose ships. Panic rippled through the crew as alarms blared. "Sir, sensors show more energy signatures," Cale shouted. "Multiple points of attack, moving faster than anything we've recorded." "They're everywhere," Ryland said, finally realizing the scale of the threat. "How is a single species capable of this?" Alara's forces pressed the attack, striking Zitharan supply lines in orbit. Fuel transports and cargo ships were disabled, cutting off the fleet's ability to sustain itself. The humans did not seek total destruction, yet, but they made it clear that they would not allow intrusion. Amid the chaos, Alara's communication officer reported an incoming Zitharan drone. "Sir, a reconnaissance vessel is attempting to scan our positions. It's heading straight for the planetary caves." Alara smirked. "Let it come. Prepare the trap." The drone descended into the thick smoke of a volcanic crater. As it approached, automated energy nets fired from hidden mounts, wrapping around the craft. It sparked violently, systems failing as it plummeted into a lava fissure. Data collection was lost and the humans gained more time to prepare for the main fleet. Above the planet, the Zitharans were desperate. "Rylan, we can't hold orbit. We're losing too many ships." "Hold steady," Rylan shouted. "We'll regroup, we'll." Another explosion rocked the bridge. This time it was Argus V itself. Systems flickered and alarms screamed. Cale looked at Rylan, eyes wide. "They're inside our comm network, inside our systems. How?" "They know us," Rylan admitted, his voice tight. "They've been studying us, predicting us. Every move we made, they anticipated it." Meanwhile, on the planet, Alara watched the Zitharans retreat. "Phase 2 complete," she said. "They see only chaos. They think it's luck. It is not. It is preparation, skill, and survival. Prepare for Phase 3, the counterattack. Phase 3 meant something bigger. While the orbital fleet was distracted, Deathworlder fighters moved to attack key ship clusters. Using the volcanic ash clouds as cover, they launched precise strikes against engines and weapons arrays. Zitharan ships spun helplessly in orbit, unable to counterattack or escape the ambush. On Argus V, Ryland's hands trembled over the console. "We underestimated them," he muttered. "Completely." Kale looked at him. "Sir, if they're this coordinated, this intelligent, they aren't just a planetary species. They are something else. Something evolved for survival in the worst conditions imaginable." "Then we're not just facing a primitive race," Ryland said grimly. "We're facing the deadliest species in the galaxy, and we didn't even know it." Alara, standing on the command deck of Shadow Fang, looked at the holographic display of the Zitharan fleet. "They think they control the stars. They think they are invincible. Let them believe that a little longer. Every strike we make, every ship they lose will remind them. Humans are hunters now." The Zitharans had entered a world where every environment was a weapon, every human a trained predator. They thought they were explorers, conquerors, and masters of technology. They were wrong. The humans of LV-319 were not just surviving, they were thriving, evolving, and now they were striking. By the end of the first day of conflict, the Zitharans had lost multiple cruisers and supply ships. Panic and confusion spread through the remaining fleet. Crew members whispered rumors of ghost ships and planetary attacks, unable to explain how a single species could orchestrate such destruction. On the planet, Alara addressed her commanders. "This is only the beginning. They will call for reinforcements, send larger fleets, and underestimate us again. That is their greatest weakness. We will strike where they do not expect, fight where they cannot survive, and teach them that no one, no species controls humans. Not Zithara, not the galaxy, not even fate itself." In the distant command centers of Zithara, a council of senior admirals received fragmented reports. They had prepared for difficult planets, hostile species, and even rogue environmental hazards, but nothing like this. Nothing that moved with such intelligence and precision, using the planet itself as a weapon and surviving every hazard with ease. "Call for reinforcements," one admiral barked. "Double the fleet. Send the strongest ships. Do not let these humans escape." But deep down, even the admirals felt doubt. Humans, once thought fragile, had become a force they could not predict. They had survived worlds meant to kill, adapted to every hazard, and now struck with deadly intelligence. And above all, LV-319 remained quiet, almost serene. From the volcano ridges to the cratered plains, humans observed, calculated, and waited. They would not make the same mistake twice. The next time Zitharans entered their space, they would be ready, not just to defend, but to demonstrate what it meant to survive where no one else could. The first contact had been violent, confusing, and deadly, but it had only revealed part of the humans' power. Zithara would learn soon that they were not dealing with a weak species of myths and stories. They were facing a civilization shaped by deathworlds, forged by extreme survival, and capable of turning the galaxy's arrogance into its own destruction. Alara's final words to her fleet echoed in every corner of the hidden command centers. "Let them think they control the skies. Tomorrow, we remind them who owns the stars." Systems flickered, ships drifted, and the morale of the crews wavered. Captain Rylan Kess stared at the holographic displays, frustration and disbelief etched across his face. Every attempt to strike at the humans had failed. Every maneuver was anticipated. "We can't keep this up," Lieutenant Maurice Kale said. "Every strike we plan, they know it before we act. They're predicting us." Rylan rubbed his temples. "They are not just intelligent," he admitted quietly. "They are evolved for this, for survival. Every hazard we throw at them, they turn it into a weapon. Meanwhile, on the planet below, Captain Alara Voss surveyed her forces. The humans had inflicted chaos on the Zitharan fleet, but the threat was far from over. Zithra would send reinforcements, larger fleets, stronger ships. Alara knew the next battle would demand more than clever ambushes. It would demand strategy, cunning, and precise execution. "Prepare the secondary squads," she ordered. "This is where we teach them why humans are the deadliest species in the galaxy. Not just survival, domination through intelligence." Alara's plan was daring. The humans would lure the main fleet into a narrow asteroid belt that orbited the planet, using the geography to their advantage. The Zitharans, confident in their numbers, would find themselves trapped, unable to maneuver effectively. Every asteroid, every debris field, and every natural storm would become a weapon in the humans' hands. In orbit, Zitharan commanders were unaware of the trap forming. "We've cornered them," one officer said, pointing to the planetary surface. "They can't survive against our fleet." "Survive?" Ryland muttered. "They don't have to survive, they just have to be smarter than us, and right now they are." As the Zitharans prepared to descend closer to the planet, the humans initiated their trap. Small, stealthy vessels darted through asteroid fields, guiding larger Zitharan ships into areas where magnetic storms, volatile asteroids, and artificial traps disabled engines and weapons. The fleet's numerical advantage became a disadvantage. Ships collided, broke apart, or were disabled mid-flight. Communication networks were jammed intermittently, leaving captains to act blindly. Inside the Argus V, Ryland's bridge was chaos. Alarms blared, screens flashed warnings, and crew members shouted over each other. "We're losing another cruiser," Kale yelled. "They're everywhere, we can't see them, but they're hitting us from all sides." Ryland took a deep breath. "Focus. We can't panic, we need a counter-strategy." But the humans already had the counter-strategy in motion. Captain Alara had sent a small infiltration unit toward the Zitharan flagship, Valora. Using stealth technology adapted from their own ships and the planet's natural magnetic fields, the humans breached the ship's defenses. Inside Valora, the intruders moved silently. They were not just soldiers. They were scouts, engineers, and tacticians trained to exploit weaknesses with precision. Systems that Zitharans considered secure were being manipulated. Communication networks were infiltrated. Weapon targeting arrays were subtly altered, ensuring that when Zitharans fired, their own ships would sometimes be endangered. Lieutenant Kale noticed unusual readings in the flagship systems. "Captain, something is inside the Valora." "Someone or something is manipulating the targeting." Ryland's face paled. "Impossible. Our security protocols are flawless." "They've learned us," Kale said, her voice tense. "They know how we fight. They know our minds, our strategies, and they're using it against us." On the planet's surface, Alara's forces coordinated with their orbital units. Using encrypted signals and predictive algorithms, the humans anticipated every Zitharan maneuver. They guided disabled ships into asteroid fields, directed enemy interceptors into storms, and turned environmental hazards into active weapons. By midday, half the Zitharan fleet was damaged, drifting, or completely destroyed. Panic rippled through the command hierarchy. "Call for reinforcements," Ryland shouted into comms. "Call every ship in the sector. We can't lose LV-319. But the humans had anticipated that too. Sensors had already detected the Zitharan response fleet moving toward the system. Using the planet's natural electromagnetic storms, humans disrupted communications, creating confusion and delaying the arrival of reinforcements. Every move Zithara made, the humans countered with precision. Alara addressed her commanders. "They will throw everything they have at us. They will believe their numbers make them invincible. That is their greatest mistake. They cannot think like us. They cannot survive what we endure daily. Let them learn the hard way." Meanwhile, in a private chamber aboard Argus V, Rylan reviewed the damage reports. "We are being outmaneuvered," he muttered, "by a species we considered primitive. How is this possible?" Kale shook her head. "Not primitive, Captain, optimized. Every human we face here is a survivor of the deadliest conditions imaginable. Their evolution is our undoing." Ryland's expression hardened. "Then we have only one option left. We fight smarter, we adapt. We cannot let this species, this anomaly, win." But adaptation had limits. The humans had already turned every Zitharan expectation into a trap. Ships that attempted evasive maneuvers were funneled into the asteroid belt, where debris punctured hulls. Fleets attempting to concentrate firepower were split by artificial storms and electromagnetic pulses. Zitharans had trained for thousands of combat scenarios, but none had prepared them for a species that used the environment itself as a weapon. Inside the flagship Valora, the human infiltration team reached the command deck. They moved swiftly, disabling critical systems and transmitting false orders to key ships in the fleet. Confusion spread like wildfire. Ships fired on each other, engines misfired, and communication breakdowns left captains making fatal errors. Captain Rylan realized the truth too late. Humans were not just surviving, they were orchestrating the battle on a scale he could not comprehend. The Zitharan fleet, once confident, was now a disorganized mess. Alara watched the chaos from her command deck. "This is the turning point," she said. "They believed in numbers, they believed in technology, they underestimated us. Never underestimate humans." By evening, the asteroid belt glowed with fires from destroyed ships and drifting debris. The remaining Zitharans retreated, battered and broken. Ryland's voice was hoarse as he issued orders. "Fall back to the outer systems. Regroup. We need to reassess everything." But even in retreat, the humans struck. Small Deathworlder squads harassed the remaining ships, striking at engines and communication arrays. The message was clear. Humans were not a species to be feared only on their planet. They were a threat anywhere in the stars. On LV-319, Captain Alara addressed her forces. "Today we showed them the price of arrogance. Tomorrow the galaxy will learn that humans do not surrender. Humans do not flee. Humans dominate when necessary, survive when impossible, and adapt when challenged. Remember this victory, but prepare for the next." The planet itself seemed to settle after the battle. Volcanoes smoked quietly, storms rumbled gently, and ash drifted lazily through the air. Humans moved among the ridges and caves, surveying their handiwork. They had fought not just to defend their home, but to remind the galaxy that they were not extinct, fragile, or primitive. Captain Rylan Kess stared at the planet from orbit, a mixture of awe and fear in his eyes. They're not just alive," he muttered. "They're perfect for survival. Every move we make, they've already accounted for it, and I think they're just beginning." Alara stood atop a ridge, watching the twin suns set over the volcanic plains. Her face was calm, but her mind was alert. Zithra would return. The galaxy would take notice. Humans would have to continue proving their strength, adaptability, and brilliance. But for now, the first stage was complete. The turning point had been reached. Humans were no longer myths. They were hunters, strategists, and survivors, the masters of the deadliest worlds in existence. And the Zitharans, like so many before, had learned that underestimating humanity came with a cost too high to bear. Tomorrow, the real war would begin. The Zitharan fleet had retreated beyond LV-319, battered and disorganized. But retreat did not mean safety. Every surviving ship carried the fear of the humans they had just encountered. Captain Rylan Kess paced the bridge of Argus V, a feeling of helplessness gripping him like iron chains. "They are perfect for survival," he muttered to Lieutenant Kale. "Every move we made, they anticipated it. Every plan foiled. And yet, we barely survived." Kale shook her head. "We underestimated them. We treated them as myths. Legends, stories, but they are real, too real. Across the planet, Captain Alara Voss studied the fleet through long-range sensors. Even retreating, the Zitherans were dangerous, but they were vulnerable. They had lost confidence, cohesion, and the ability to act decisively. "This is it," Alara said quietly. "We finish this before they can regroup. Humans do not wait for mercy. Humans do not negotiate weakness. We act, and we act decisively." Her plan was simple in principle, but deadly in execution. Using a combination of stealth, intelligence, and environmental control, the humans would strike at the Zitharan reinforcements before they could join the main fleet. They would disable command ships, neutralize weapon systems, and force a surrender or complete withdrawal. Deathworlder fighters launched from hidden planetary hangars, slipping through storms and ash clouds. Each unit moved with precise coordination, striking targets that would cripple Zitharan capabilities. Orbital bombardments were carefully aimed, using environmental hazards to magnify their effect, while stealth ships infiltrated sensor networks to sow confusion. On the Zitharan side, panic was spreading. Captains shouted over failing communication channels. Orders were ignored or misinterpreted. Systems malfunctioned inexplicably. Every attempt to counterattack failed. They had trained for thousands of combat scenarios, but nothing could prepare them for a species that turned planetary hazards into tactical weapons. Rylan Kess realized, too late, the truth. They are not just fighting. They are controlling the battlefield. Every asteroid, every storm, every volcano, it is part of their strategy, and they know it better than we do. Lieutenant Kale's voice was trembling. "Captain, the humans are inside our network. They're controlling targeting, disabling shields, even misdirecting torpedoes." It's impossible." Rylan gritted his teeth. "Nothing is impossible to them. Not for the humans of LV-319, not for the Deathworlders." Below, Alara coordinated the planetary defenses and orbital attacks simultaneously. Her plan was ruthless in efficiency, but not in cruelty. Her goal was to defend and assert dominance, not to annihilate a species incapable of surviving the loss. Every strike was precise, calculated, and devastating. By midday, the remaining Zitharan ships were crippled. Engines failed, weapons malfunctioned, and command structures were paralyzed. For the first time, the Zitharans felt the weight of fear. Their arrogance, their confidence, their belief in technological superiority, all had been shattered by humans who thrived where others could not. Alara's voice cut through the comms to her commanders. "This is our moment. The galaxy has doubted us for too long. Finish what we started, and remind everyone that humans are not to be underestimated. Do not relent." Small Deathworlder boarding units deployed on the most critical Zitharan ships. They moved like shadows, swift and silent, disabling engines, sabotaging weapons, and ensuring that no fleet could regroup without serious delay. Zitharan crews fought, of course, but the humans were trained for this. Every maneuver, every counterattack had been anticipated. Resistance was futile. On Argus V, Ryland struggled to maintain order. "All units fall back to the outer perimeter. Attempt to regroup," he barked, but the crew's confidence had eroded. Systems continued to fail, engines sputtered, communication channels were compromised. Kale whispered almost to herself, "They don't fight like we do. They fight like the world itself is their ally." Indeed, the planet of LV-319 became more than a battlefield. It became a weapon. Volcanoes erupted on cue, sending ash clouds and molten rivers into paths that disrupted Zitharan movements. Lightning storms ignited debris fields, which ricocheted through the fleet, damaging hulls and disabling turrets. Even the magnetic storms interfered with sensors, making navigation nearly impossible for the alien ships. In orbit, the surviving Zitharan admiral finally realized the truth. We cannot fight them," he admitted to his subordinates. "We are not dealing with a species that can be destroyed by force alone. They are something else, something beyond our calculations. Alara, watching the chaos unfold, knew victory was near. She dispatched a final squadron to target the remaining command ships. These vessels were vital. Once they were disabled, the Zitharan fleet would be forced to surrender or retreat entirely. The strike was swift. The humans moved through the chaos with precision, avoiding stray fire and environmental hazards. Engines exploded, weapons malfunctioned, and control systems shut down. The Zitharan command structure collapsed. Confusion spread, orders were ignored, and morale hit rock bottom. Rylan Kess, staring at the crippled fleet, understood it was over. They have won, he admitted, the weight of realization pressing down on him. We underestimated them completely. Alara's voice came across comms, calm and commanding. Zithra, your fleet is crippled. Your arrogance has cost you ships, crew, and pride. Withdraw. Do not attempt to return until you understand who humans truly are. The Deathworlders will defend their worlds, and the galaxy will remember this day. For the first time, the Zitharans knew fear. They had never faced an enemy that could predict, adapt, and strike with such efficiency. Humans were no longer a minor threat. They were masters of survival, strategy, and environmental warfare. On the planet, Alara surveyed her forces. Humans moved among the volcanic ridges and plains, checking their equipment, tending to minor injuries, and coordinating cleanup operations. Despite the violence of the battle, the humans maintained discipline, calm, and focus. This was not chaos, it was calculated dominance. Alara turned to her lieutenants. We have proven our strength today, but the galaxy has not yet learned the full measure of humanity. Our victory is not just survival, it is a warning. Zithra and any who doubt us will know, humans do not surrender, humans do not flee. Humans thrive where others die, and when challenged, humans adapt and dominate. As night fell on LV-319, the twin suns casting long shadows across the volcanic plains, the humans stood tall. They had defended their home, defeated a technologically superior fleet, and shown the galaxy that they were no longer myths or legends. They were a force to be reckoned with. Captain Rylan Kess, retreating into deep space with the remnants of his fleet, sent a final report to Zitharan command. The humans of LV-319 are exceptional. They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are a species to fear. Do not underestimate them again. Back on the planet, Alara allowed herself a rare smile. The humans had done more than survive. They had triumphed. And yet, she knew the galaxy would continue to test them. New fleets, new species, new challenges would come. But for now, LV-319 was safe. Humanity had struck first, struck smart, and struck to be remembered. She looked up at the stars, glowing faintly through the ash clouds. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns, but humans had proven they could thrive anywhere. And when the galaxy underestimated them again, they would strike harder, smarter, and faster. The Deathworlders had shown the galaxy that human ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability were unmatched. They had survived the impossible, turned the environment into a weapon, and defeated an entire fleet. And they would do it again. The victory was complete. Humans had not only defended their home, they had sent a message to every species in the galaxy: underestimate humanity at your peril. LV-319 was quiet now, the storm slowly settling, volcanic activity returning to normal. Humans moved through their homeland, vigilant but proud. They had faced one of the galaxy's most powerful fleets and survived. They had turned a legend into reality. And as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Captain Alara Voss whispered to the stars, "We are humans. We endure. We survive. We dominate. And the galaxy will never forget it."